3 years would pass, and soon it was time for the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament. Now, Goku would still be participating, just like he had in the original timeline. However, it would be under different pretenses. Remember, in the original story of Dragon Ball, following the events of the Fortune Teller Baba arc, Master Roshi sent Goku out into the wilderness for 3 years on his own without the flying Nimbus to grow in his power, to explore and go on his own journey. However, Goku wouldn't take that path. You see, Goku wouldn't really need to. He still had a family and people who cared for him. And while Reed and Susan were rather lenient with Goku in many ways, given his unique upbringing and circumstance, they weren't going to feel too comfortable letting their son just roam out in the wilderness by himself for 3 years with no contact or anything at all. So Goku would return back to West City with his family and continue in his role being a part of the Fantastic Four. He would still fight crime, save the day, but he would still train on his own time. And having the resources that the Richards family had, training was no bother of a task for him. He would have the latest equipment to work with, treadmills, weights, things of that nature, and he gained combat experience from fighting super criminals or training with Johnny or Yamcha or Ben. As such, Goku was still able to progress, if not progress even more so, thanks to the added benefits that he had around him. Of course, Roshi probably would have preferred Goku to benefit more on his own, but this was just the upbringing that he had, and it was just how things were going to have to work. In the meantime, Krillin would be spending his time on Kame Island with Roshi. It wasn't that Krillin didn't enjoy Goku's company, and the two would meet from time to time over the 3 years, but Krillin decided to go down his own path, and training so closely with Roshi, he decided that he wanted to inherit the title of the Turtle Hermit Master, something that Roshi had no problem passing down. After all, if there was anyone suited to learn everything that Roshi could possibly teach him, then it would be Krillin. So that's the role that Krillin would play in this story, taking more of an one-on-one approach with Roshi than he did in the original timeline. And given how close the two of them already are, it only made more sense that Krillin would go more in the mastery of the Turtle Hermit School. In the meantime, Yamcha was still coming to grips with his power. As I've stated before, Yamcha was turned into an android, along the lines of the androids you'll see later in the story, like 17 and 18, only he didn't have the Infinity Engine inside of him, so he didn't have an infinite amount of power, stamina, things of that nature. He could still get tired and all that other stuff, he just had the enhancements that androids had, but the power, it was still reliant on him training. Although, even if he didn't train, he still had enough power just from the enhancements alone. Just to make sure he didn't slack off, Johnny oversaw his training personally, as Yamcha was not any ordinary android. No, but similar to the original Human Torch in Marvel Comics, Yamcha was turned into an android version of the Human Torch by the Red Ribbon Army in their attempts to combat against the Fantastic Four. Everyone was excited with anticipation as the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament was set to get underway. Everyone from before was going to be attending, along with a young 4-year-old Franklin Richards, the younger brother to Goku. He was looking forward to seeing his big brother compete in the tournament for the first time, given that he was only just a newborn the last time the tournament came around. Roshi was also going to be entering in under the pseudonym of Jackie Chun. After all, he wanted to see just how far his students had progressed, even if it meant he'd have to go in under disguise. However, trouble would brew as the Fantastic Four, along with the other members of the Dragon Team, would come into contact with Tien Shinhan, along with his counterpart Chaozu and their master, who was the rival to Roshi, the Crane Hermit, Master Shin, opposite to Master Roshi, the Turtle Hermit. There had always been a rivalry between the two schools, the Crane and the Turtle, and for this year, Master Shin was looking for his students to show up big time and to crush the students of Master Roshi. And for Tien, he was also looking for revenge in his own right, because you see, his former master was the legendary mercenary Tao, a former member of the Crane School, and learning of his fate at the hands of Goku, he was looking for revenge in his own right. The prelims would take place as before, but there would be some changes, of course, given the extra number of participants and the different circumstances of their power. The tournament bracket would shake up a lot more differently. The first round would see a couple of rematches, so to speak. The first one being Goku going up against Ben Grimm, aka The Thing. Ben thought that this was going to be his last tournament. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy participating, but he really didn't get much fun out of it, save for getting a chance to clobber a few of his teammates from time to time. The second match would be Yamcha versus Johnny Storm, a battle of the Human Torches. Third, just like in the original timeline, Krillin versus Chaozu. And finally, instead of happening in the semifinals, in the first round it would be Tien Shinhan versus Jackie Chun. The quarterfinal matches would play out as follows. Goku versus The Thing, a rematch from the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament. Goku would be a far more stronger and capable fighter than he was in the original timeline. Not that Ben was slacking in his training in any way. In fact, he was still giving Goku a run for his money, and he wasn't going to go out as easily as he had before. During the 3 years, Ben had also dabbled in the use of ki to create energy blasts. Not to the degree that Goku or the others had, but still, he wanted to make a technique all of his own. He would hold both his hands out in front of him and concentrate a large portion of his ki into a powerful ball of energy. It almost was the size of a wrecking ball. He called it the clobbering cannon. The ki would take on an orange color, an orange ball of energy, and he would blast it out, looking to just eviscerate everything in its path. Goku would have to match it with the Kamehameha wave, just barely being able to knock it off trajectory and into the air. The fight would be heavy and intense, with Goku taking many serious strikes, but all the same, Goku's power had grown exponentially, allowing him to match the might of the Thing himself, once again winning via ring out. The next battle would be Yamcha versus Johnny Storm, Battle of the Human Torches. Johnny had spent the 3 years training Yamcha hard, grilling him in the use of his firepower in order for him to bring his true potential to the forefront. This would be Yamcha's way of learning ki also, but unlike Johnny, who chose to stick to his traditional firepower and just used his ki to amplify it, Yamcha was using a mixture of both ki and the power of his flames, along with the enhancements that he got from being an android. He and Johnny would have a fiery contest going back and forth, the two of them eventually launching their signature attacks, a powerful fireball. The two supernovas would collide, with eventually Yamcha overpowering Johnny. Johnny wasn't mad about this, and instead was actually pleased to see how far Yamcha had come. You see, Johnny by this point in time had been the Human Torch for close to almost 15 years. 15 years of adventures, of being a superhero, celebrity, and all of that came with it. But as he got older, he felt as though he wanted more for his own life. Seeing his older sister and Reed, even seeing how Ben was coming along in his own relationship life. The life of a bachelor, while appealing, wasn't always the most satisfying. And as such, Johnny felt like it was time for him to tap out, so to speak, to get out of the game, at least full time. If the world ever needed him, he'd be only a call away, but he was ready for someone to take his place. And even if not under the best of circumstances, he had met his perfect replacement. After the clash of flames, and feeling the power that Yamcha had, and knowing that he could still go farther, Johnny would go out by the ring, stepping out and losing on purpose. Yamcha was surprised by this, until Johnny would simply smile. I haven't been training you these last 3 years just for nothing, you know. I was looking for my replacement, and today I found them. Wait, what? Me? Yep. If you'll take it, I mean. I won't force it on you. No, I'm honored. I didn't think that I would be worthy of something like that. Trust me, you're more than worthy, I promise. Besides, what would the Fantastic Four be without the Human Torch? It's all up to you now, my friend. Do me proud. Yamcha would bow to his master, the crowd roaring and cheering in approval, as not only had they seen the end of one of the world's best heroes, but it was the start of a new one as well. The next match would be Krillin versus Chaozu. Not much to say here, as this battle took place in the original timeline, and it would still end the same, with Krillin getting the victory. And for the next bout, Tien versus Jackie Chun. A definite contest to say the least, but yet again, the same fight as from the original timeline. So nothing would change here at all, except for the fact that Tien would have to fight a rather intense match in the first round instead of the semifinals. But as we move to the semifinals, this is where the changes would occur, as the first semifinal match would be Goku versus Yamcha. Unlike before in times past of the original story of Dragon Ball, when Goku and Yamcha would collide, they were always relatively even in strength. But now we would be dealing with two far more powerful versions of these characters at this point in time. Yamcha would by no means be easy to take out, and Goku would be one of the most fiercest opponents that Yamcha had ever faced. Two young up-and-coming heroes in their primes, doing battle on the grandest stage. The fight would ultimately culminate in a beam struggle, the flaming ki blast of Yamcha going up against the Kamehameha wave of Goku. The two would be seemingly dead even, but Goku would just narrowly be able to pull out the win. But still, Yamcha was not one to be taken lightly, and from the looks of things, they were going to prove to be some of the most strongest members that the Fantastic Four had to offer, on top of already having Ben Grimm the Thing. The next semifinal match would see Krillin versus Tien. This match would definitely be amplified given the two in their roles, with Tien wanting to carry on the flag of the Crane School, and with Krillin carrying on the flag of the Turtle Hermit School. Both of them had similar goals and thoughts in the matter, and as such, their fight would be one for the ages. Although, instead of being in the spot that they were before, it would be Krillin who would be on the receiving end of a terrible accident. Just as Tien had gotten him on the ground, similar to what he had done to Yamcha in the original story, Tien would snap Krillin's leg, breaking it in the center of the ring. He wouldn't be able to compete or move any forward, being knocked out from the pure shock itself. This would infuriate Goku even more so, and it would give just a bit more fuel to the fire, so to speak, as the two of them would face off in the finals. A much more serious and determined Goku battling against the likes of Tien Shinhan. The fight, as it took place in the original story, would be far more intense and a far more ruthless battle, with Goku not wasting nearly as much time getting to Tien, and Tien having to pull out all the stops against Goku. But who would win this battle ultimately? While the two of them would go back and forth like before, ultimately the main issue here is that Goku at this point in time still would not have the ability of flight. Thus, when the two of them were fighting high in the air and the both of them came crashing down, it ultimately came down to one thing: Goku unfortunately hitting the car before hitting the ground first. Even in the midst of that battle, and with Goku giving out a far more fiercer performance, he still would narrowly lose out to Tien Shinhan in the finals. However, Tien would still be moved by Goku, moved by the compassion that he showed to his comrades and friends. And for Tien, he would still have the change of heart that he had before. So much so that he would abandon Master Shin in the Crane School, much to Roshi's delight, as he saw another fine young warrior making his own way in life, taking his own path. While it was a bit hostile at first, Tien would try to make amends, even checking on Krillin, who was now using crutches in the meantime due to having his leg stepped on by Tien in the tournament. While Krillin was salty about it, even he could find it in his heart to forgive, seeing someone wanting to change their lives for the better. As such, they were able to smooth things over, and in terms of making amends, he was even willing to pay for everyone's dinner. However, as they were all set off going to leave, Goku would realize that he left behind the power pole and the 4-star Dragon Ball that he always carried with him. Krillin didn't mind going back to get it, not like he was doing much anyway. Of course, Goku protested, but Krillin thought it wouldn't take too long. Herbie the robot, who was always flying around with the family as a form of assistance, would carry Krillin along. He figured it wouldn't take too long for them to get there and be back, but still, he didn't want them to take too long. However, things would take a turn. It was only 10 minutes later when Reed would get an emergency alert from Herbie, telling them of danger. Goku, among others, would be the first ones to rush back, just in time to see the roof of inside of the building of the martial arts tournament facility having been crashed into as a strange winged creature was flying away. Goku's Dragon Ball was gone, along with the dossier of all the members of the tournament, but that paled in comparison to what he found, because lying on the ground, with blood pouring from the side of his head, it was Krillin. Whatever that monster was, it killed his best friend. Little did they know, in ancient darkness, one of whom that hadn't been seen on the earth in over 100 years, had finally returned. And he was going to wipe away the world's so-called heroes. This concludes Dragon Ball Fantastic Tales. What if Goku joined the Fantastic Four? Season 1, Part 6. If you enjoyed today's video, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is Power Core Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. And stay tuned Monday morning as we continue with What If Goku Joined the Fantastic Four, Dragon Ball Fantastic Tales, Season 1, Part 7. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.